You are in Warriors Huddle with me, Bram, and with me, per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxime.
How's it going?
Maxime, it's I don't know, man. It's going all right. It's like Friday. Can't go wrong Fridays. I got a vacation kind of next week, and so I am as relaxed as I allow myself to become relaxed. But I'm also angsty as shit because I don't know what to expect out of this Warriors team and where we stand, and I'm all over the board. So I'm in my usual state, kind of tense, but I can find some optimism. How about you?
That makes sense to me. I think the current state of the Warriors has me a little concerned. The fact that we've got some games coming up, as in the next two that should be pretty winnable, has me deeply nervous because this team is so rocky at the moment. But I'm excited to be going into the weekend. The holidays also kind of make me uncomfortable because there's so many expectations, right? And that's both to do with the Warriors and also just to do with being in a family. So I don't know, a little bit angsty. I don't like being cold. You're generally finding me in a very sort of Schrodinger's cat kind of moment. I don't know which way to turn.
Man, there's so many follow-ups. Mainly, I want to hear about the family drama, but I don't want to get you in trouble, so I won't ask you any questions immediately about that. Instead, let's dig into the Warriors, Maxime. Let's start where we always do, our glass half full. We look back, recent Warriors basketball, give out something you like, something you don't. I don't know if you noticed, but as a little bit of pressure for you, I brought the popcorn back. And I do mean it not only as a meal, but as a direct threat to your takes. If you find me not eating popcorn, it means I don't like them. So, whatever you want to experience that, I'll preemptively eat a piece right now. And we jump. I don't have a whole lot of likes, so I'll get mine out of the way and then give it to you. Here's what I like. I like that the nonstop travel back to backs, this dog shit schedule that we've heard everybody complain about, us included, Steve Kerr included, is finally behind us. Here's a little research. Warriors have played the most games in the league at 17. The closest, though, is not that far behind, 16, but we're still the leader. The Warriors have also played the most road games in the league at 12. Closest there is 10. I was hoping there'd be like this giant discrepancy. Right. Like we had played 10 more games and 15 more games on the right, like some kind of impossible math scenario. And we are the leader, but not by a ton. And finally, the Warriors have played the most back-to-back games at 5. The closest there is 4. So that's just behind us. And I like that. Next 5 games are at home, and next 5 games should be pretty rested. On 3 of those games, the Warriors will have at least 2 nights of rest before going into it. So it's a respite. They're in a new place. And I'll turn it into a question because depending on who I speak to about this, I'm getting a lot of different answers. Is the schedule an excuse? You listen to Steve Kerr and you don't have to really read between the lines. He's saying things like, I've been in the league for 1 million years. I've never had travel or play like this. And the implication is it's bullshit. It's not fair. Bill Simmons made a joke. We played it on this show that, Adam Silver must hate the Warriors because he put together this schedule. But there's another side to it, the idea of the GM's job. Put simply, it's the GM's obligation to put together a team that can field 82 games, however the fucking schedule makers make them, and that happen to be loaded up front. But it's not like they're cheating. It's just the schedule, and I've had people point that out to me as well. Where are you? Is the schedule is that why we're playing this poorly? Like, how do you view it as a topic?
Do I point to the schedule when people ask me how they feel about the fact that the Warriors are 9-8? Hell yes, I do, right? It is the excuse. Do I like it? Not one bit. It makes me really uncomfortable. I much prefer the era where we just steamrolled the league and we didn't talk about this shit at all. I mean, when you're talking about like 2016 to 2019, the schedule was not a conversation, right? Maybe once in a while you'd be a back-to-back, you'd be worried about, somebody being tired or whatever, but this is not, I don't like that we need an excuse at all. It may or may not be a good one, especially when you look at the team's age, but it makes me uncomfortable.
There's a random aside. I mean, it fits in here, but I get not an excuse, just in the topic. As a guy whose overall career earnings will likely be less than any of these guys make in a single year, listening to them complain about the travel they have to do,
Sure.
or watching them take nights off within the first month of the season, there's a disconnect there. Like, I get it. I understand it's load management. The Spurs and everybody kind of established this as the chic way to get through the season and maintain health. So like, I understand the strategy behind it, but as a guy who's not in professional sports, I don't know. It's not the best it looks. And here's a stupid example. I had a friend of mine, doesn't live in Northern California. He's over in San Diego, wants to come into the Bay. He's always been a Warrior fan, has never brought his son to a game, and has texted me a couple times saying, hey, I want to come up. We got to show him Steph, and that's why we're doing it. What game would you suggest? And he's not talking about what opponent would we like to watch, or like what rivalry. He's asking me, what game is Steph guaranteed to play in? One, that's a question, it's not the best look for the fucking NBA. And two, that I don't have an immediate response, that I can't bet my life on, come to this game and for sure you'll get it. Again, it's a disconnect, man. It's not great. And with the tickets at the price that they are, I don't know. It's at least worth saying.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It bums me out even further. And as I told you, it's the holidays, and you ate the popcorn last at the beginning of my last take. It. So there's, yeah. I mean, look, I'm trying to keep the ball rolling here, and I don't want to bum you out with more bad, feelings around this stuff. But it is. As we talked about last time, thinking about basketball, right? This idea of the NBA being a game built around the business, right? As the European FIBA commissioner said, or as they build a business around basketball, it does feel more like, this isn't about the on-the-court product. We don't actually care about the fans because we're making money anyways. And that sucks when you actually consider the individual, like your homie's son who's never seen Steph before. You shell out all this money, you do all this travel. You hear about people traveling from overseas, from Asia, from Europe, to see him play, and then they miss out on the game. It's a small condolence that you get the kid holding up the sign that says, like, I came 4,000 miles to see Steph Curry, and then he comes out and does a handshake. Like, that's cool for that one kid, but that doesn't placate the thousands of others who are just literally missing out with no carrot at the end of the stick.
I mean, should also point out that if the Warriors were, 14-3, I would be like, this schedule's perfect. And load management's so smart. I'm so glad that they're taking advantage of all of this. Instead, I'm super pissy about it. Also, I forgot to mention, at least with the popcorn in tow, new sponsor. This segment is brought to you by Nasty Mouth Noises. I'm going to make as many gross noises into this mic as people who are listening can possibly handle. So we do have that. All right, I got a don't, and it's kind of a big one. But you got any other likes? Are we missing anything? You got some optimism spilling out of here?
The only thing that I was going to mention is that in spite of all of the stuff that we may be talking about momentarily, you get a sense that the people in the locker room, the people that step on the court to play basketball, are unified. You get that sense in the way that, Jimmy Butler is sort of standing up for Jonathan Kuminga, right? And saying, like, I too would be frustrated if I'd been benched like this. This is tough, right? And you see Draymond saying, like, no, this, I wasn't really talking about him. There are some shadows of discontent, but it's not outright. And I think that that's a really nice position to be in. I've definitely seen squads in past years that felt much more discordant inside the locker room.
Another good word by you. Another one that I just kind of ran into here. I'm about a week removed from this comment. I was driving home, East Coast games, so couldn't watch the start. So I'm listening to the start on the ride home. And friend of the podcast, Tim Roy, is there, and they're getting ready to tip the ball. But before they do, he's commenting on the schedule. I forget where they were, but basically he said, look, brutal schedule, older team. If we can just be 500. When we get home, before we start that 5-0 stretch, if we've got relative health and the boys are somewhere close to 500, look, sky's the limit. Win as far as how to deal with this. And so here we are. And we are 2 games above 500 relative health. So Tim Roy, who knows a lot more than I do, gave me a map out for optimism. There you go. Something I like. Something I don't. Maxime, I don't know who the fuck this team is after 17 games. I don't know what the hell to expect, dude. We've talked, how many games are you supposed to wait? I've been told by a lot of people 15. So we're 2 over that. If all I did was watch the 9 wins, I think this was a vet-laden team who would rely on championship pedigree to overcome problems with depth and athleticism. They look like a top 5 seed that no one would want to play come the playoffs. And I could identify a bunch of plays, a bunch of moments in the San Antonio win or the Denver win or even the Clipper win. They're like, look what we can do. This team is ready. If all I did was watch the losses, I would think that we were a ridiculously inconsistent team who was top heavy, had no depth, and was way too turnover prone and wasn't ready to win on a consistent basis. And from that analysis, they're a playing team whose, ultimate, ceiling is a second round appearance. And both of those descriptions make sense to me. My guess is the truth, as it always is somewhere in the middle. But if I was supposed to know what these guys were after 15, I'm too overdue, and I do not know exactly what to expect. I don't know, man. I don't like that inconsistency.
Yeah, I hear you. I've got a young kid, right? And it's so fun to not know what to expect, right? That every day he comes home from school and it's like, who is this new person? Because he's growing so fast. That's a joy, right? You know what's not a joy is having like a 35-year-old friend and you're like, hey, who's going to come home today, right? Like you expect adults to be pretty consistent. And like, it's fun when you got a young team and you're like, oh, how are these pieces going to fit together? But like, this is not a young team. I need a little bit more consistency in my life.
My version of that is I occasionally will invite people over to come and watch the game. Less now. We don't have as much time, kids, all that stuff. But I will have people over and they have no idea who they're visiting. If we're winning, like I'm super light and like a bunch of questions about them, like we're talking about the kids, like laughing at highlights, having the time of our life. If they're losing, I'm like aggressive and asking bullshit questions. And when we talk about the Warriors, I'm trying to like show that I know more about them because I'm like strangely competitive because the team who I'd like to be competitive isn't. So like I'm kicking it up. It's a psychopathic way to go through your life. And if I was someone who got invited, I don't know if I'd want to come. Like, it's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde scenario that can't be helpful for anybody. And I'll give you another don't. And all of this said, grain of salt. Maybe the next time we talk about this, the Warriors have shown it was scheduled and they got some rest and they looked great. And that's exactly what I hope happens. Yeah. But the other thing I don't like is what we're doing to the role players. If a very successful NBA team is filled with people who know exactly what they're supposed to do when they hit the floor, and they spend 82 games practicing exactly that. So by the time they get to the playoffs, someone goes in the game, they know what they're expected. We're not providing any of that consistency with our role players. On the games when our stars are there, they're being asked to be bus riders, make the extra pass, understand where Steph's going, do all the little things and only the little things that lead to wins. But that's not their consistent role because when you have games like Miami, when the big three sit, and it looks like that's going to happen a lot, they're being asked to drive the fucking bus. There's no longer role-playing shit. Now we need a leading scorer and we need a guy to take the offense by the reins and we need a point of defense or a point of attack defender. And if that's what this is going to be all year, if like we're like be nothing, be nothing, be nothing, be everything, nothing, 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 everything, I don't like that lack of consistency. And if we really do need something, if these guys end up being better than I previously described, and we find ourselves deep in the playoffs, it's going to be really hard to lean on the role players if they don't know what the fuck their role is. So I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the counter argument, the devil's advocate, is something like, well, Steve Kerr is constantly tinkering with lineups throughout the regular season so that everybody feels more comfortable in varying roles when we get to the playoffs and have matchup dependent lineups that we're throwing out there. I could see that, but I don't buy my own argument there. I think in general, this is, as we've said a million times before, and everybody says over and over again, this is the problem with the two timelines approach, is that, you throw out different lineups of veteran professionals, like LeBron talking about, I can fit in with any team. It's ridiculous that you would suggest that like somehow with Luka being here, I can't, like that's LeBron James, right? Somebody that hasn't adapted to the NBA yet at all is a very different calculation when you're trying to throw them out there. It's like, are you going to start or are you going to come off the bench? Like that would send me into schizophrenia, I think, if I was a young NBA player. So, I'm very concerned about exactly what you said, that even if we make it to the playoffs, this team is not deep enough for us to have schizophrenic players from a basketball perspective on the end of our roster.
Last thing I don't like, and talk about unoriginal turnovers, not just turnovers, what happened there turnovers, because it feels like we lead the league in what happened there turnovers, where just like someone's dribbling and falls down, or they look for a pass and they throw it 3 feet above the other person's head, or they're taking it out underneath our basket and throw it just immediately to the other team for their wide open three. I get, like, I make a bunch of mistakes at work. I bet you I made 10 mistakes at work today, but not a whole lot of unforced errors. I go and get coffee. I don't drop it on the way back. Yeah, like, I mean, like when I hit print, I like normally speaking, it fucking prints. Like I don't. These unforced errors are very frustrating. I understand they're part of the game and they're part and parcel of this offense that was happening when we were winning chips. But frustrating deal.
No,
All right, to our
so-
golden questions. To our golden questions, Maxime. This is our mailbag. People write in, get us questions. They always deal with the Warriors. I may add one here about a ghost story. I'm not sure. It depends on our timing. We'll see where it goes, but we'll start with the Warriors related ones. And the first one is, I think, very topical. Right. So the question is Podziemski underperforming? Let's expand that. You talk to any Warrior fan, you're going to hear the frustration that we're expressing into this microphone. And if you talk to them longer than 30, 40 seconds after you get through the schedule bullshit, you'll hear somebody take shots at Podziemski. JK will be mentioned too. By the way, just to do a victory lap, we asked or talked about, JK didn't start. I bet you there's going to be some story about him being malcontent. And on the money, there's a story suggesting he feels like being scapegoated. But that question's not about that. It's about Pods. If you talk to people who are Warrior fans, a lot of the disagreement will be about Podziemski. Not a lot of people are pushing back. Right now, it feels like he is underperforming. People are very angry. They think that he's having a shitburger season, and they're putting a lot of this on his shoulders. And so I did a little bit of research, yeah. And there's two sides of Podziemski. One is the Shohei Ohtani side, what he is projected. Okay. No question he is underperforming from a Shohei Ohtani perspective. He is not set up to take the reins from Steph or be better. We can all concede that. But that's some subjective shit. It's not like the Warriors came out and said that. The closest that the Warriors came to certifying that was Lacob in a summer league game when he did the whole he's going to be an all-star deal. But like since that, it's no any comments about who Podziemski has come from Podziemski. So if we look at it objectively, right? Like, what should he be doing? Because that's how you decide if he's under or overperforming. What's the expectation? Well, I'm a firm believer, Maxime, of you get what you pay for, right? So I looked at the contracts. Podziemski right now is making $3.68 million this year. Still rookie scale, goes up next year to $4 million. Here are the next three contracts down on the NBA's list of contracts. And quick apologies, I'm going to fuck up a lot of these names.
This is one of my favorite segments on the Warriors.
Oh my God, I might spell the first one to let you pronounce it. First one, and actually, I remember this dude. He of the Jazz, Svi Mykhailiuk, Mykhailiuk. Svi is making $3.67 million, so $100,000 less than Podziemski. Next person down, Kasparas Jukasionis. He of the Heat, he's making 3.65, so $300,000 less. And then finally, Jacoby Walter of the Raptors, who's making 3.63. So all four of these guys are making just about the same money. Let's talk about the stats for everybody else. Svi, 27 minutes per game, 9 points per game, 2.6 rebounds, 2.0 assists. Compared to Pods. Pods plays more minutes, 28, scores more points, 12, has a higher rebounding count, 4.8, and more assists, 2.9. We go to my guy, Kasparas. Kasparas has only played in 2 games, Maxime. In those 2 games, he has yet to record a rebound. He was able to put up 5 points per game, which is less than Podziemski, and he had 5.5 assists. But again, 2 games played, which leaves Jacoby Walter, similar deal, less minutes, 11.5, less points, 3.6, less rebounds, 1.2, less assists, 0.6. So looking just at the salary slot from where Podziemski is, he's overperforming at least everybody else around him. He's a 19th pick, right? So there are the stats. Yeah. Those aren't what we see on our television screen. They're not putting that up there underneath, right? You've watched him play. If I talk to you obviously, I'm putting my finger on the scale. I'm trying to have you say, oh no, he's playing right on what we should expect. But you've watched the fucking games. It doesn't matter the stats I read to you. What do you think, man? Is Podziemski underperforming?
Yes. And I will say this. I think you're putting the finger on this. There's a lot that I would like to unpack based on what you said, because it's an astute argument, and I think you're spot on. But you're putting the finger on the scale to counteract a lot of the fingers that have been put on the scale on the other side.
Yep.
It's not just Lacob talking about him being an all-star in Summer League. It's also Steve Kerr consistently betting on him over, for example, Moses Moody, right, who we've been clamoring for, who's obviously on a much bigger contract, but just does not get the same leash, the same trust from Steve Kerr, which continually baffles me because Moody seems to be such a consistent player, perfect for the Warriors rotation. So, that's just, and same thing with Jonathan Kuminga, but for very different reasons, right? A much bigger contract, but yet doesn't get the same sort of latitude to do what he wants to do, to make some absolutely baffling decisions on the court. I mean, you talk about the turnovers. Podziemski is definitely celebrating the heir to Steph Curry in some of the ridiculous decisions that he's making, except that he doesn't have the execution on the offensive end to make up for it, right? So go ahead.
Is that fair? So I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. I guess my question is, he doesn't have any control over that. It's not,
Sure.
it's Kerr made the decision to trust him. The organization has made the decision to value him in a way. Because I'll add to your list the supposed refusal to include him in a marketing trade. Because we might have that next piece that we desperately needed had they been willing to give him up. And so that kind of creates an expectation. But if the organization believes in you, does that kick the bar up on what you should be producing? And I don't mean that as an aggressive question. I mean it as a real one, because I get where you're coming from.
No, spot on. I think that adds fuel to this fire, right? Of the frustration is not just that he's a player on the team that is overvalued from the coach's perspective and from the front office and ownership's perspective. It's that he's holding up opportunity. It's an opportunity cost on our roster, right? My homie Russ texts me, is like, what are we doing, right? We're investing in this guy at the expense of something else. This is the two timelines problem, right? The fact that we have somebody on a rookie scale contract that is at times starting or is at least a key component of, or supposed to be a key component of coming off the bench, like that's holding a slot for somebody that could actually be very valuable to contribute to a team that is in win now mode. Because at the end of the day, the white Ohtani is not, in fact, Steph Curry, is not even close. We have Steph Curry on our roster, and as I've said a million times, right, like I would prefer to be in win now mode, not in two timelines. Let's get ready for the future with Podziemski.
I mean, we're all back YouTube, so we've talked about his confidence. Is it annoying? Is it appropriate? Does it hold back the team? And when we try to talk up the upsides, like why you'd want him to be talking about being handed the reins, we talk about public goals. If he comes out there and says, this is how I should be judged, now he feels an obligation to try to reach that, and so we like that. He's setting really high standards. Well, you set really high standards and then you come in really below them. This is what happens. You're going to hear people on local radio shows being angry. You're going to hear people blaming you for, what might be team-wide failures because you've asked us to analyze you through this lens. This is the danger of going public. Keep your confidence internal. Try to match your own expectations. If you are telling us what the expectations should be, and then you are well below them, I think we're entitled to give you shit. It's just kind of part of the show. If I told you, look, Maxime, next 6 days, I'm only wearing a red shirt. Theoretically, you don't give a fuck what color shirt I'm wearing. We wouldn't even talk about it. But if 2 days in, I start wearing a different color and you start calling me out, justified. What'd I tell you that for? I went out of my way to give you this piece of information and now it's not happening. So I think that's the thing that I get pissy about him on. 19 pick, 3.6 million, that salary slot. Really, I'm not expecting difference making numbers. What he's doing is probably okay. But if you go out of your way to grab a microphone, look me in the eye and tell me, don't pay any attention to that slot. Nope, not me. I am the reign holders. I'm the guy you need to give it to. And then you come out and are not. I'm going to hold you to the standards you've asked me to hold you to. And it's a frustrating thing.
It is. Yeah. And not that he's listening to this. I mean, maybe he is actually, because we have his dad on the show, right?
Yes, that might be. We still love you, John. We love you for sure. In fact, Maxime wrote all this shit for me. I don't believe any of it. I don't know why he's having to say this.
Oh yeah, but look at him eat the popcorn he likes to take regardless of who wrote it. No, but if I could give a word of advice, right? The thing is if you're gonna come out and say, hey, I'm gonna wear a red shirt for the next 6 days, cool. If everybody else around you is like, bro, Bram never wears red shirts, stand up for yourself, right? But if people around you is like, yo, Bram is always wearing red shirts, and then you come in and you're like, I'm gonna wear a red shirt for the next 6 days, it's like come on, man, like if let the other people do the talking for you, and if nobody's talking for you, then sure, go ahead. But like you've already been anointed by the Greater Bay Area. I mean, this time last season, we were so excited about Podziemski. If he just stayed low,
No, that's
we would
fair.
probably be more
No,
comfortable with his mistakes.
it's a consistent thing. I mean, at the risk of overusing this bad analogy, I say I'm only wearing red shirts, and then my employer says, you know why Bram's really valuable? He only wears red shirts. And then somebody else tries to hire me, and my employer says, no, 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 we will not give you Bram. He wears too many red shirts. It's too valuable to us. And then 3 days into my red shirt week, I'm wearing a blue shirt. Everyone's going to be like, well, what the fuck? I thought you were valuable because you wear red shirts, dude. Like, what's happening with this whole thing? So, convoluted analogy. But we may have landed it. I'm not sure. Let's keep it confusing so that people think we might have. To our next question. Should the Warriors trade their first rounders? Right. So here's how I understand this. On one side, all of us are performing these suggested fake trades. Anthony Davis, Lauri Markkanen. I mean, there's a lot of them, all of us. And all of them, one thing is consistent. We're trading the young guys, but the names of the young guys change depending on the salary we're trying to match. The thing that's consistent is it always ends with include first rounders. The Warriors have been very careful to keep them all in pocket. And so right now they're still built to put a team together after Steph leaves because they still have all their first rounders. If they're in a position, if they want, they can take their future, push it into the table right now and go after a player that might help Steph. So the two sides to this for me. Side number one, and we've talked about it a million times, dude. We only get one Steph. He's here. He's not going to be here in 3 years. And so you push everything onto the table to give him a chance while you have the opportunity to play with Steph. The other option is a look at what the league did when the Warriors were really good. Look at about 2017, maybe 2018. Kevin Durant's here. Everybody with the exception of Daryl Morey and Houston made the probably smart calculation. We're not one player away. We could trade all our first rounders. We could bring in another guy, but if we did, we'd still be second place behind Golden State. So why punt these next 3 years? Those are the Warriors, and we'll keep our first rounders, and then we'll figure this out. I'm bringing this up now because OKC is pretty damn close to that level of dominance. 14-1 right now, playing without their second best player. And if the season ended today, they would also have a top 10 pick in a loaded draft through the Clippers. Insane. So I don't know if we're one player away. We could take all these first rounders, give them to Steph to play with somebody else, but I'm not sure that puts us into contention. I don't know. It might put us into a Western Conference Finals. I don't know if it gets us into the finals. But so that's kind of the rubric I'm looking at. Mike D called you. Nothing specific yet, just conceptually. It's like, Maxime, I don't know. Like, before I call any of these teams, I know I'm going to have to include first rounders. Should I? Should we just play this out and keep the first rounders and celebrate Steph, but not give him a team, or do we owe it to him?
Okay, I'd say my man, Mikey, my guy. Whatever it takes, give all the first rounders. And I'll give you, right, you're going to probably have two concerns. One, we already talked about, right? Is this going to be enough to get us over the hump? Because if we're mortgaging our future for the present, like we got to feel like we have a realistic title chance. And for that, it goes without saying that obviously if you have Steph, you have a chance, but I would actually point to the Olympics as more of a reason than you might expect, right? You pair Steph with LeBron. I'm not saying you're going to get LeBron back specifically, but somebody of somewhat equal caliber to be, a part of this squad alongside Jimmy and hopefully Draymond, if these things work out nicely. That's enough to beat a team, and specifically a set of teams in Serbia and France that are known for being really tight teams, right? They have an apex in Jokic and Victor Wembanyama, who's admittedly young, but they've played together a lot, grew up together, worked in these systems together. Like everybody says, OKC has great chemistry, all of this shit. You can put together a mercenary squad. Steph and LeBron have never played together, but they're good enough as basketball players to overcome the team dynamic that is OKC, right? So that's one. And then the other thing I would mention is that you have this concern that you're seeing right now, the fan base freaking out, right? When the team is floundering, it's impossible to filter through all of the noise of everybody saying like, this is a nightmare, whatever. You have all these bandwagon fans that makes the fandom feel really uncomfortable to be a part of. And I'm sure the front office feels that, and it's exhausting, and you don't want to mortgage your future. Steph won't be a part of that. A lot of those bandwagon fans are going to go away. We're going to go back to being able to, tank, rebuild through the draft, do the work that needs to be done. And the people that love Golden State for the sake of being fans of Golden State will still be here. You will have that support. A lot of the fluff will go away, and it won't be as intense. So I don't think you need to worry so much about losing out on those first round picks in the future. Go for it all right now. What do you think? Did I convince you?
Convince me, kind of. Here's where I'm at it. I think that if we had ChatGPT as our guest, if we brought in AI and there was literally no emotion at all, and the only thing is, hey, what's the best chance of getting us a championship? What's the move here? I think that ChatGPT might say pocket the first rounders. I think you guys will have a puncher's chance if you bring in somebody else, but I think that OKC is still be a pretty heavy favorite. And so what we're doing is following, the odds and the kind of objective shit that AI probably looks at. My guess is it would tell us maybe you want to keep them. If you ask a human being, subjectively, someone who has watched what Steph means to this area and who he is and what's been accomplished and everything he's done to change all of our lives, let alone our fucking sporting lives, then it's a straightforward. Of course, you give him what he needs to go out on top. And I think one of the things that makes sports so beautiful and so much better than almost any other television I watch is that it's not just objective; it is subjective. The things that make these guys so special also comes with fucking obligations. He has given to us; we got to give to him. And if I wanted to push back at least a little on ChatGPT's, my fake ChatGPT analysis is first rounders aren't guaranteed. They're lottery tickets and you want them, but there's no guarantee that the first rounders you give up are going to become future Stephs or future anybody's, right. And so even if it's, I don't know, whatever it is, 5 out of 10 chance, giving up a couple of those to make sure that we honor what Steph Curry has done here, I'm willing to do it. I don't know if it puts us closer to a championship. I'm not willing to say that. I think that OKC has kind of separated themselves out a little bit, but I do still think we owe it to him. Yeah,
I agree. And OKC's done it once, but Steph has done it 4 times. There is unquantifiable stuff. Maybe it's quantifiable, but I don't know the calculation, but there is unquantifiable stuff that goes into championship pedigree. Steph has it 4 times over.
Another don't. I'm real late on this. Just came to me for no reason.
Wow.
Why doesn't Jimmy Butler want to beat the shit out of the Heat? Why isn't this is the second game he sat, against the Miami? And from what I remember it being pretty acrimonious and him being upset and they didn't give him the money and why didn't he want to be out there in that second one? And I'm sure it's not that simple. I'm sure he would like to play, but as someone who didn't get the story, we're not provided details. We just see him on the bench. I'd like to see a revenge game, Jimmy, especially we just lost to Orlando. Right. We needed some pop. It would have been nice to get it from somebody with a double dose of fuck you attached.
Man, I agree. And, it's not just him sitting on the bench, right? It's you hear the story about him cutting right after the game where, Steph is talking to Wiggins, right? Other players are kind of chumming it up with. It's clear that he has animosity specifically. And it's man, if you're not gonna speak for that story, then I don't think that he should not let this himself speak for the story, and as opposed to having the story speak for him.
I agree. Time for maybe the most huddly of huddly questions, and it's a choose your own adventure. It's up to you. We can I've got a fake trade. All right. Okay. A trade involving the Clippers, involving a first rounder, and fake trades are the life and blood of NBA podcasts everywhere. Or I could tell you this random as fuck ass ghost story that fits far more into a random Huddle off-season episode. And I'm just not going anywhere. We don't do it now. I'm sure I'll find some other occasion to give it to you. But what do you think, dude? Which way you want to go? Fake trade or story about ghosts?
Man, you're putting this on me. I recall, I think the last time we were at a game together, we had an extended conversation about ghosts, and it was wildly entertaining and had way more twists and turns than I think the audience would expect. Your opinions about ghosts are deep, man. So I'm inclined to go that direction, but I also think that this is a very pertinent time to be talking about trades, and and it's there's a lot of stories happening right now about, oh, this Kuminga is now the perfect trade chip at this contract amount. So I don't know, man. Why are you making me make this decision? What are you excited about?
My God, that was fucking terrible. You gave me nothing.
Yeah, I gave you nothing. Why did you throw this at me?
At all. Jesus Christ, man. I'm driving us along here. You could have driven for that last block. Okay, fine. Ghost story it is. Fuck you, Maxime. You don't get to hear my Clippers trade idea.
Damn it.
All right, so I got to be kind of careful here. My wife is a grade school teacher. Because of that, she knows a lot of teachers, and she hears, random scuttlebutt conversations. And so this is not about her school, but a teacher told her this story. So this school I am talking about had been around for a very long time, used to have a pool. It was a different organization that featured a pool, then got bought out by the school. One of the things the organization did was close up the pool and make it into a concrete field, but they still have the locker room. Now, no one's getting changed, right? So the locker room's been repurposed and now was their server room and was downstairs a couple of floors. 3 or 4 years ago, giant storm in the bay. Water floods into the server room, fucks up all the servers, and they've got to shut it down. But they couldn't fix it for a while. And this year they are finally fixing it. But it turns out, Maxime, that doing construction on a school site is hard. There's kids there, insurance concerns, that kind of stuff. So what they got to do is they bring in a construction crew at night once the kids go away. And that requires costs. We're talking overtime, that kind of stuff is what it is.
Sure.
And so the way the story goes is, this school is having their server room dried out and refurbished and the whole 9 yards. Then there's kind of murmurs from the crew. They don't want to show up. And finally, the crew refuses to come. They refuse to come and refuse to take any of the overtime, which is a very unusual thing for construction. And when asked, it is because they saw the same little girl baby ghost in the locker room so many times that they refused to continue to go back down there and stopped. And so I don't, I keep using these phrases, subjective, objective. Objectively, the amount of times a blue collar construction crew would have to see a ghost to say, you know what? I don't need that money. I don't care how much you pay me. Fuck you. I'm not going in. They apparently hit that number, which is endlessly entertaining. But here's where it becomes personal. The school was deciding to do a seance. They're just panicked too. Like they need to get this thing fixed out. And so they're whatever. They'll do anything they want. And as part of the story, when the other teacher tells this to my wife, they tells her about the seance, and Erica comes back to me and says, I want to go. It's like, oh, I'm going to show up to that seance. And so my immediate reaction was, the fuck you are. You're going to bring that little kid to our house, dude. Like, we're not doing this. Like 1,000% no. She is still interested, which leads to the judgment theater question. So I unfortunately telegraphed where I'd be coming from. You can guess if you want, but I can tell you now, no, never did a Ouija board, nothing. I'm hard out. But if it was you, if you had an opportunity to just see a ghost, that's it. Just see it, whatever. You could press a button right now and it appears. It doesn't have to be in your house. You can be somewhere else. If you could just see a ghost, would you? I will guess for you. I say yes. I can't tell you why. Who knows why you do what you do? I have no explanations at all. You think it's like an opportunity, a life experience kind of thing, like something to kind of be able to tell other people and just no other opportunity to do it. So why not take advantage of it? So my guess is for you, yes. What do you got?
No. For so many reasons. I don't like scary movies. I don't really like, even at this point, being in the dark. My least favorite thing is watching a scary movie and then being in the dark, because I'm like, I'm for sure going to get killed at every moment. So the fact that I would be going to a seance or even just being told that I'm expected to see a ghost is going to make me expect to see a ghost around every corner for the rest of my life. And then on top of that, it would be nice to be able to tell the story, but this is a thing that is, like you said, subjective, right? Not everybody believes in ghosts. So if I had, to my own eyes, incontrovertible proof, but to the rest of the world, that proof isn't real, I would feel like a madman, like trying to justify this constantly. And I would rather just, in the same way that you don't want the potential of that ghost coming to your house, I don't want anything to do with any of it.
No, that's exactly right. If you give me any possible downside that is like palpably bad, like you can eat this, but it might give you diarrhea. I'm not eating it. You can wear this shirt, but it might give you a rash. I'm not wearing it. You could go to this location, but you might get sick. Fuck you. I'm not going. I could see a ghost and it might follow me for the rest of my life. Hard out, dude. What the fuck is the upside? I am hard out. There's a series on Netflix, True Haunting. I don't know. I don't remember what it's called. but it's like a 5-part documentary, basically about somebody seeing a ghost and then it followed him forever. For like 2 weeks now, I've tried to force Erica to watch a single episode just so that we could both agree, like, no, this is not happening. To no one's surprise, she has completely refused and will not sit down with me. But it is a thing. So I do have some objective evidence here. All right, last attempt to be basketball-y, because I should have asked you this up front. Here are our next 5 opponents, Maxime. The Warriors will be playing the next 5 teams at home. I want you to tell me what their record will be. Portland, Utah, Houston, the Pelicans, and OKC.
I'm going to say we go 3-2. I think we win the semi-obvious ones against the Blazers, the Jazz, and the Pelicans. It's hard to imagine we can beat the Thunder. I feel like, with the Rockets coming in, there's a lot of bad blood, but I think the guys are going to get up specifically to go against KD, and the Rockets continue to be our little brother, so there it is.
I have the same record, and based on like all the inconsistent stuff that I was complaining about earlier, I think we're going to beat somebody we shouldn't. I think we're going to lose to somebody we shouldn't.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're like, we'll have like some huge OKC win. It's incredible. And then we lose to the fucking Pelicans, like something like that. And we won't know. So maybe I'll be wrong. I guess we will find out. All right. Big fun. Appreciate it. You guys know where to find us. We're on social media in a whole lot of places. The one that I like to show off the most is our YouTube channel. We got to get our subscriber counter up. I'll talk about this next week. I appeared at a junior high and talked about the podcast, and they were impressed. And then we put up our YouTube page, and someone asked me, wait, you only have that many subscribers? And I started sweating terribly. And I was like, no, it doesn't show our listens, and you don't know. So help me, you guys, get out there, subscribe to the channel. We got to get that number up a little bit higher. And with that in mind, go Warriors. And hopefully we'll see you real soon.